Welcome to the Revive.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to my show called The Revive on Expressive TV. I'm your host, Carlos Champagne. Tonight we have my guest, James Richards.
Good to be here.
Nice to have you, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Carlos.
Last week we talked about who you are versus who you want to become. This week I wanted to talk more about finding yourself. And to get into the conversation, the world we live in now, a lot of young people try to make themselves into individuals, and this is very hard to do. From my personal experience and what I see many young people either following a crowd, not understanding what they want until after they have it, trying to put themselves in a solitary position so they can actually understand who they are as a person is hard for them, and this usually leads to them taking on somebody else's persona, and this either goes to some level of depression or confusion. What do you think about that?
I think what you said made sense. We can touch on how the culture has influenced the kids today, whereas rap, movies, just every media that we consume is telling us to be this way. It is forcing us to be individuals, and I don't believe that's what God wants us to be.
I feel like a lot of young people are actually really going about it the wrong way, if anything. Everybody in this generation always thinks to go on the path of least resistance. And it's really hard to really understand yourself when you only do things that you like, because you really find your character in situations that make you uncomfortable and allow you to reach out to something new. This builds confidence and builds strength in a different way that you can't do when you're around other people. Usually when you become around other people, that really, you take on the characteristics of the people that you're around. Just like that. And the weaker your own individual person is, the more you're going to take from others. So how I feel like a lot of people or young people get to this point is that they take on other people's lives, and that's not meant for them. And this causes them to feel some type of anxiety and depression, which leads to which I feel is the reason why a lot of young people go to drugs and become addicted and stuff of that nature.
So maybe a way for somebody to actually find who they are is to not reach out to the wrong people. If they're followers of God, they shouldn't be reaching out to the cool kids in school to find who they are, the kids that are smokers or they're doing the things that God don't want them to do. But instead you find the very few that are following Christ, and you become really good friends with them, and then you grow together. You're able to find each other, help each other on the path. And with that, you're also pleasing God because you're growing and finding yourself in Him.
That's true. You have to use God to find yourself. But I feel that you have to come to that understanding yourself to a certain point. And you have to really build a relationship with Him through the Bible. I feel it's harder for a person who doesn't have it, that doesn't know anything about the Bible, to be like, oh, I want to find myself through the Bible. That's not the first thing you're going to think of. But I would say that is the fastest, and this way will create the most growth in you, because when you take on the mindset of God, it allows you to process information in a different way that allows you to see any situation and try to make the best out of it.
So in my own experience, I was the guy in high school that was telling people I'm not going to do what you guys do because I'm trying to follow God. I wasn't going to let the culture influence me. But you know my father, and he sticks by the word, and he's a very godly man. So that also helped me. But within my own heart, I didn't want to be the person influenced by culture. I listened to the music everybody listened to. You know, you talk to some girls. I wasn't taking as far as trying to have sex with them, or you know, that kind of lane where I would be identified as the other people, the other boys, you know, hitting on girls and stuff. But I was able to be myself and find myself because I stick to what God wanted to do. So that's why I would say it was healthy for me to try and find the right people. That's how I found him. He was in my history class, and I noticed something about him, and I think he noticed something about me, that we became good friends and we clicked. And then from there, we built a relationship where I could talk to you about God, and you can tell me your experiences, and I would try and, you know, go about it how I saw it and give you advice.
And I feel like you made a good point in that, because as I was talking to your father earlier before I came here, and it got to the point that really relishing in the word, like actually having that connection with the Bible, because I feel a lot of people feel like there's a lot of rules that come along with Christianity, but that's more or less the religion side of it. And how it truly is supposed to be, it's a relationship, and just you becoming closer to God, and the way it makes you think and the way it makes you feel, you automatically don't have those worldly desires anymore. So, and I can say this for myself as well, because just like how he said he came up more religious, I didn't have that exact background. I had people influencing me to do the wrong things. Not necessarily to be a bad person, but fall into worldly desires and stuff of that nature. And that actually became a problem for me, because I found myself being pretty following the word for the most part, but I allowed myself to just take breaks and stop what I was doing. And it got to a point that I felt bad because I knew better, but I kept doing it. But as I started to actually, that's when I was just talking. But when I actually got to reading the Bible for myself, it changed me. It really changed me into the point that my desires became so much less. Like, I don't have to do anything with the female to feel some type of way. I don't have those urges like I did before. And I feel like that came from my one-on-one relationship with the Bible. And it's like, you have to really think about, because like, even though you don't judge somebody, I mean, even though you're not trying to show that you're judging, people can feel when you judge them. So it's just like, if somebody confides in you and you listen to them, but you can feel that judging feeling, even though they're still trying to help, that makes you not want to come back.
Okay, I got a question for you. So does that mean the church needs to make their message more urban, or they need to make things cool to reel in the young generation?
I don't feel that you need to make the Bible cool or make it more urban. I feel like you just have to kind of go back to the roots and kind of step away from religion and get back to the Bible, because the Bible, it's all said in the Bible. How you should treat one another, and how you feel, how you should feel, not how you should feel, but it'll make you feel a different way. But people don't look at the Bible as a relationship; they look at it as a rule book, and that's what we have to step away from.
Okay, that makes sense. I got another question, just based off of your ideas. Do you think that it's wrong for the older generation in the church to frown upon the young generation? Because to go into the conversation, I feel like the young people don't have the time that the older generation had. You know, now we got cell phones, media, TV, football games, everything else in the world, and the older generation didn't have that stuff. So, do you think that they have a right to judge them, frown upon them?
You're not supposed to judge anybody because everybody's going down their own walk. I feel that you should help them understand and get through any confusion that they have, not really judge them, because everybody has a different walk and everybody's not going to have as easy as time to get through a certain situation. It's supposed to be about understanding and love and not about rules and judgment and damnation. That's exactly the reason why so many young people have gotten so far away, is because of that judgment. They don't want to be judged. They want to go down their road. I feel like if given the opportunity, a lot of young people would go to the Bible, but just how it's presented and how people of older generations judge them makes them push back away from it.
Do you think that there's a way for the church to, help the younger people come in? Like, have you ever heard of the church? And I think it's called Hillsong or something like that. You ever heard of that church? It's in New York, and they do a lot of singing, and that's like the main church that people our age go to, because they're doing all this. They're not really teaching; they're doing more, understanding. Do you think the church should make that approach, or should they really stick to the Word and what God said? And to be honest, the things that we are doing, God is not happy with. So it would make sense that the people that understand that the most are not going to give us that, oh, you're just going through your 20s, we're supposed to just understand. You're not supposed to do it in the first place.
See, like in that point, I feel that it comes to, you have to get to knowledge and turn that into understanding. And once you have that understanding, you have to turn that into wisdom. You can understand something and not actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Like actually do it. So like you can have all the understanding, like you can know everything about a subject, or you can learn all about a subject matter. But if you don't actually use what you learn, it doesn't matter. So using what you learn is turning that into wisdom. So it's like, I feel that they shouldn't like judge you. They should help you get to wisdom. Help you get to the point that like you understand what's going on, and once you have that understanding, be like, wow, I need to walk in this direction,
Okay, that makes sense. So that will allow people our age to want to go to the elders and ask, when they're not judging, they're saying, here's wisdom, here's some understanding. I was there, so I'm going to help you go through this, right? And that should allow us to help each other find where we want to be.
That just made me think of an example that I actually was thinking about earlier. So when I was very young, my mom had to go to college, and I stayed with my grandmother, and the way my grandma treated me and the way my mom treated me were two very different ways. When I was with my grandma and I did something wrong or I broke something, I told her, sad, shamefully, like, I'm sorry. She was like, it's okay, I understand. Thank you for coming to me. What are you gonna do to not make this happen in the future? My mom, something happened, I get yelled at, or I get beat. And my mom would be so jealous about how I treated my grandmother versus how I treated her. My grandma, I would tell her anything, I would say anything, I would do stuff for her. It was so much easier for me to relate to my grandma because of the forgiving demeanor she had to me. She never got mad at me. She automatically forgave me and tried to figure out how we can work through the process. Whereas my mom got angry at me or just like frustrated. But I know it's an age gap thing, but I didn't want to go to my mom to anything. anytime I did something, I would try to hide it. I did not try to tell her. I would avoid that by any means. By any means. But something happened at my grandma's house, I go straight to her like, I would still be sad, but I know that I'd be reaffirmed for what I did in a good way, other than being shamed or yelled at or hit. Like, that's just anybody. So I feel like that's the same thing in the church. If you would rather somebody like, I understand what you're going through, something like this happened to me. So how do you see you coming, like getting through this? Sometimes you just need to talk it out and figure it out with somebody, or you just need somebody to listen to you talk, and you will figure it out for yourself. Sometimes you just need a listening ear.
Okay, yeah. When you said that about the difference between your grandma and your mom, it made me think about my dad. His parenting style, when I'm trying to find myself, he would teach me the route I'm about to go down because he's been there, and he would say, okay, he'd wipe his hands clean from it. So he made sure he always gave me the right advice. He knew where I was about to go, and he said, this is what's about to happen to you. So he gave me the wisdom first. I didn't mess up and then get the wisdom. But if I did mess up, because he already gave me the wisdom, he would come with understanding. So I like the mix of, there wasn't much punishment, there was more wisdom and understanding. And what that allowed me to do is to grow, and then that I got the lesson, and then I'm able to pass it to whoever needs it next. So instead of, like you said, the judgment that the church brings, I don't feel like I'm embarrassed to come to him for anything. I can tell him anything. He knows everything about me. But he built that because he told me everything since a young age. He told me everything that he went through. And he said, look, this is what's going to happen to you in your teens, and when you're an adult, girls, people trying to peer pressure you, the rest of it. And then now he's just I took what he said, and like I said, in high school, I was this guy. And that's because of him, because of the wisdom he gave me. So I feel sorry for people our age that don't have that guidance like your grandma. They don't. Some people don't have that. Some people don't have their father. They have a mother that's working 9 hours a day, and they don't get any attention. And the church is the furthest thing from their mind. So, I'm glad that we're both able to understand that guidance that actually helps us, man. And so that in turn, we don't have to look to the culture. We already set straight. So, like you said about your friend, you thought about telling him, hey, come to the church, come to this meeting because your head was on straight,
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you'd be out there with him messing.
Like how you said, like how we got to the point that we found ourselves. I feel like you also need a little bit of solidarity to do that. So it's always good. It's like you have to have a certain point. You have to be at a certain point and solidify yourself, and then go to others. It's like this, because I feel like being with a group of people is not bad, but when you do not understand yourself as a person, you just take over that person's persona. It's not you. But when you have a basis of who you are, you're like, okay, I like that about him, so I'll take that. But I'll stay me for the majority, But I feel like it all comes into like seeking God. Once you seek God, I feel like everything else will kind of like fall into place, because He will put everything that you need in front of you, because He knows the person you are, and He knows the person that you want to be. So He'll give you those opportunities to become that person, but you have to seek Him. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week, actually, is how you go about seeking God. Well, James, it has been an amazing talk. I enjoyed having you on the show.
I'm glad to have you, man. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Welcome back to the champagne portion, where we say a little bit about the topic we had earlier today. What I really want to tell you guys is that you have to be able to confide in yourself and truly understand who you are as a person. And you can't do that when other people are around. You have to take the time to talk to yourself. And also, you can't try to define yourself by what you like. There's a quote that says, to find yourself, you must find who you are not. And what that means to me is to really understand who you are, you have to understand what you will tolerate, and that's my champagne portion.